Start a Therapy Practice podcast, episode number 84.
Scott Harmon, startatherapypractice.com podcast.
Hey, and how are you doing? This is Scott Harmon from startatherapypractice.com. So glad you're here today. Hopefully you're getting back into the groove now that school has started. I know a lot of people's schedules, like mine, kind of fluctuates when school time starts. So it kind of shifts. Hopefully you're back in the swing of things and it's going great. I'm so glad you're here listening today as we're going to visit with Dr. Kavitha Krishnan. And she was such a joy to visit with. She's an immigrant, and I really enjoy hearing the stories of friends that I get to meet who are immigrants to this country. Now, she's been in the United States for a long time, and you're going to hear her tell that story. But I always find it fascinating how people from other countries find their way to the United States and how they're doing great. Immigrants to this country typically do really well, and Dr. Krishnan is no different in that regard. Now, in this interview, Kavitha explains how when she started her private practice, she sought out a mentor, a coach. And this is exactly what I want to offer to you in the Academy of Private Practice, which will be opening for enrollment September 19th through the 23rd. It's a small window, and enrollment only opens 3 times a year. September is one of them, January, and June. So if you're thinking about starting a private practice, this is the perfect tool for you. It's that coaching and mentorship, and it's also lessons, it's also community, and it's accountability. So the Academy of Private Practice is all of those things. So go over to startatherapypractice.com. Right at the top, you can click on What's the Academy? Or you can go to startatherapypractice.com/academy to go straight to that page and learn exactly what you're going to get when you sign up to be a member in the Academy of Private Practice. So whether you're starting a private practice, just thinking about it, or already have a private practice, you don't have to go this alone. That's exactly why I created the Academy of Private Practice. It's what I wished would have been out there when I started my practice over 11 years ago. And if you have questions about what all entails the Academy of Private Practice, just email me, scott@startatherapypractice.com, or you can direct message me because I would love for you to follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Start a Therapy Practice, and the Facebook page, Start a Therapy Practice Facebook page. You can message me through Facebook. Any way you want to ask me a question about anything, those are the ways to do it. And as far as the Instagram, I'm really enjoying creating these Instagram stories. I've had a lot of fun with this. So if you want to kind of get a behind the scenes look of what Scott's up to, follow me on Instagram. I would love for you to follow me and share your Instagram stories too. Now, back to Kavitha here. She has written a book, and the book is called The SI Solution, the Sensory Integration Solution, the definitive family guide to thriving during sensory integration dysfunction. I would suggest this is not just for families who have a child with a sensory need. I would suggest that it's for you, the therapist, because it's very, very practical information and tips that she's put in here. And you're going to learn how Dr. Krishnan created this, how this is backed with study and research. And this is why you're going to want to have this book, because you can pass it out to your clients or you can learn from it yourself. Very practical skills and tips on how to address sensory integration dysfunction. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes to how you can purchase this book at startatherapypractice.com/84. So just reading from the book, it says that it provides a roadmap in understanding and living through living with a child with sensory integration challenges. So it walks you through the underlying reasons and causes of why a child might have sensory processing dysfunction. And then also tips on how to address those dysfunctions like social skills, food sensitivities, noise sensitivities. I mean, you know, the whole gambit of sensory integration dysfunction. So go over to startatherapypractice.com/84 in order to see how to purchase that book. All right, with that, let's get to the interview with Dr. Krishnan. Here we go. So, Kavitha, you went to when you came out of, how old were you when you came out of Malaysia?
Oh dear. So I've always studied in Singapore. So when I left Singapore, I would have been about 28 or so, 28,
Okay.
29.
And then you went to the UK, you said?
Yes, I went off to the UK to actually, also when I went off to the UK, I was maybe 25
Okay.
uh, to complete it into a degree. And then I came back. I went back to Singapore because I was bonded with the government in Singapore. So I worked for them for about 3 years. So I worked in mental health, and then I worked in, like I said, in the general hospital. And then a friend called me and said, "Hey, there's an opening in the National Council of Social Services." So I went there to a special needs school, and that was my kind of introduction to sensory processing, and I completely fell in love with that.
And you said that's the National Council of Special Services?
National Council of Social
Social
Services.
Services. Okay.
Right. So, and then when I was there, I was taking all these courses that, from workshops from all these folks from the States. And I thought, if I really wanted to really understand sensory processing, I should go to where it originated. Not many people do that, but I thought, let me go study it a little bit more. So I actually did go on a trip to Australia. I looked at a couple of schools, and then I came back and I thought, you know what, let me just try the States. And I've been here since.
So you're in the States now, correct?
Yes, in North Carolina.
Yes, that's what you said, North Carolina. How long have you been in the States?
Wow, 14 years now.
Oh, for a while then.
Yeah.
This is home then, right?
Yes.
Very good. So I'm curious, from Malaysia to Singapore to the UK to the United States, what would you say from, I'm curious about the cultural differences and also the differences in how therapy is dispensed and administrated. What can you say to that?
Yes, it's done it's done differently. So they have it's socialized medicine in
Mm-hmm.
Singapore. So it's heavily subsidized for treatments per se with kids and things like that. So I didn't have the issue with insurance when I was back home. So they either came to the hospital and they got the treatment or outpatient facility or in the special needs school, or there were private clinics out there where you paid out of pocket. There was no such thing as insurance back home. So when I originally came to the States to do my post-professional masters, I thought, hey, I'm going to go back and open up my clinic. But then I kind of, you're like a kid in a candy store, and you're like, oh my God, there's just so much to learn here, and so many different opportunities to learn different things with pediatrics and OT, and so I stuck around. But coming to the States, I had to understand Medicaid. I had to really understand the insurances as well, the different insurance policies that we have. So that was a little bit tricky.
So was North Carolina the first place that you landed?
No, it was in Pittsburgh.
Oh.
Pittsburgh was so I went to University of Pittsburgh, so I was there for about a year, and then I went off to Madison for a while, and then I landed in Chicago. Chicago is where I spent the longest time in the States. So I was there for about 8 years, and I was at the University of Illinois Chicago Medical Hospital. And then, so I was the outpatient pediatric OT there.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
For 8 years.
About 8 years.
Okay. So you saw quite a variety of kids there, I imagine. That's a pretty big facility.
Yes. Yes, we did. We saw a variety of them. I also worked in the high risk clinic. So these are preemie babies who came out, and so we would do assessments to track them so that they didn't fall through the cracks. And so once they came back, after they left the hospital, these were kids in the ICU, NICU, and they came back, we would track them for 3 years. Do assessments, make sure that they got, the treatments, all the EI services that they needed.
Okay. So focus on preemies there. So you got interested in sensory processing with the Council of Social Services.
Mhm.
So from that interest, how were you applying that in your time at the University of Illinois there at Chicago at the medical center?
Well, what happened was I really became interested in research as well. So I collaborated because it was a teaching hospital. So I was able to collaborate. I also was able to conduct my own research, looking at longitudinal study with children in the high-risk clinic as well. And I was uh, predominantly known for my SI skills. So I had a lot of kids with sensory processing issues that I was treating and at UIC. And I taught a class. So I would also go in as a guest lecturer or teach certain classes at the university as well. Yeah, so I did that. So it was a very happy medium. I could teach classes I really liked. That was on SI or pediatrics. I was able to engage in research, and then I was also able to carry out treatment. And I felt that's the best way of doing it for myself because I was able to soak myself in the research and then apply it with my kids that I was treating.
So from your research, from your longitudinal studies and your other research that you did there, how are you applying that or using that information or going to use that information in your private practice?
So what happened was I've been thinking about private practice, and then last year, so I finished my doctorate studies, and last year I was thinking about, because I came up with a learning module for my doctoral studies, and that is what I have as an ebook right now, kind of modified into it. So that's in an ebook, and I want to use that book for parents because the way that book came about is from my 20 years of experience, questions I have answered and re-answered parents, and also giving them like a tool for them to go back and say, if my child is going to a dental clinic, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
Flip that page. These are the common issues. What are the strategies I can use? But I also kind of walk through the theory on SI, what are the current research, what are the other current treatments that are available, like the SOS treatment, the therapeutic listening. So I kind of explain a little in there for them, just briefly, and then there are links for them for a parent to just kind of click and go into each of the sites so that they have a comprehensive understanding of sensory problems, because from my experience, it usually a parent has never heard of it until they come in, or they're pretty traumatized when their child has been diagnosed with ADHD or autism. So this is a kind of a good way where I thought the book would be a good way for them to go back and, self-pace themselves to read. And then when they came back, they could ask me questions. But a lot of home programs that I wanted. So I have like a sensory diet template in there, and then little cheat cards in there, like what can you do if your child is, highly sensitive at this time or under aroused? What are the strategies that you could use? Like a little cheat sheet card you could keep in your pocket. And I'm also thinking about not just kids, but teenagers and young adults. And so in this practice, I've been very lucky because I'm also beginning to see adults, which I'm really interested in treating for sensory processing issues. So I've been able to apply my research, show them what is current, what can be done and how you can use it at home, and then kind of incorporate it into your everyday life. So it's nothing more extreme, but I kind of try to weave it in for them.
So is that ebook available for anybody to purchase?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where can we find that?
It's on Amazon. It's also on my website. And I've given like a 20% discount for anyone who purchases it through your podcast, to listen to your podcast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Should they use a special code, or I can just put that on the post with it, I guess?
Yeah, so what I did put on is a promo code Start a Practice, and I know it's Start a Therapy Practice, so I can just change that.
And Start a Practice will work, yeah.
Okay, so I've sent that to you. So it's
Okay.
called Start a Practice, and if they put that promo code, they get a 20% discount.
Oh, very generous. I appreciate that. So that's on Amazon. And what is the book called again?
The SI solution, the definitive family guide to thriving during sensory integration dysfunction.
Very nice. And it sounds very practical. Yes.
Right? Yeah, it was geared towards parents and caregivers. So it's kind of written in a layman language so that it's easier. Because I know when we are practicing as therapists, it's really, we usually talk to the parents and tell them, but how much can they remember? So I wanted to kind of give a book, where they can flip through and a therapist can work with the parent, and it's there.
Yeah. It's because, especially as parents, we just get overwhelmed with the information, and emotions override reason, and we have to be redirected. Oh yeah, this is what's important. This is what we're supposed to do. This is what we're supposed to focus on. So I like the very practical applications that it sounds like are in there. That's going to be very helpful.
Right. And because parents can hardly remember while trying to attend to a child who's,
Yeah.
who has autism or ADHD, while you're trying to talk to the parent, and right after treatment, children don't usually sit down. At least the kids that we treat. So for those reasons, you have the book, you can go back and you can kind of guide the parents through.
Very true. So, so you started, I'm curious, did you intend to write a book, or were you just kind of taking notes and compiling notes and handing that to parents, or you're like, you know what, I should write a book? What was that process like?
No, I think like all of us, I have been always giving home programs to parents. And then, like I said, when I did my doctoral work, it was on, so it's a clinical doctorate. So it's very practical. So I did a learning module. And then once I did that, I was thinking, this would be so nice for parents to understand, because sensory integration is so complex for parents to really understand. And they usually come in and they go, I don't really know, because there's so many terminologies involved. What does it mean? So I have broken down, made a not comparison, but presented what sensory processing disorders is, the nosology, and also what the A is, sensory integration is. And so now parents reading it, I thought it would be nice for them to know, like, okay, so there are these two schools of thought, and what it means and where it's applied. And it's kind of broken down for them. And like, for example, in sensory processing disorders, I have kind of broken it down, saying, okay, this is what or sensory modulation is. This is what a sensory motor is. This is what discrimination is. And then where A is sensory integration can be used, is usually in clinics, but the sensory processing disorder is usually used in schools and homes, because the criteria that's required in the ASI. So I've kind of broken it down, and people are thinking, why is this clinic doing this and the other clinic doing that, and what does it all mean? So I'm hoping this book can explain that in layman terms, but we are all heading towards the same direction.
Yeah. That sounds very helpful. I want to back up a little bit and go over your private practice. So you said that, you've been doing therapy for 20 years, and that you finally said, well, it's time to start my own practice. Yeah. Take us through that thought process of how you came to that, and then how you finally came to take action on that. And that discussion with your husband, as far as, hey, I think we should do this. What did that look and feel like?
Initially, it was nerve-wracking. To be honest, my husband's been asking me to do it. And he said, don't you think it'll be beneficial if you do your own private practice? And I've been pushing it aside. And then we came to North Carolina. And I think this is where, when I came here and I realized it's so spread out in North Carolina, and where I live out in Franklinton, it's more in the, I wouldn't say rural, but more in the countryside area, and there's not enough. I don't see any clinics around here to start with. And then, so what I did was I said, I'd really like to have my hands dealing with these kids in the homes. And so I called the Child Developmental Services Agency, the CDSA. And when I was speaking to her, she said, hey, why don't you start up a company? Because we don't have enough people around there. We need a lot of service. Wow. That's how it started, really. And she said, you start up a company, otherwise you have to go all the way back and reapply for everything. And I said, okay, I will do that.
Yeah, here's your sign, right? You should do this.
I mean, it comes in different forms, and here it was. She was telling me, like, listen, we need you. And I was like, okay, that's wonderful. So That's how it started. And then the book came along, and then I do workshops. So it's all coming together very quickly for me.
Yes, you've been busy.
I have been busy, yes.
So remind us, how long ago was that when you made that phone call and the lady told you should start a business?
That was about a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And so since then, I've got the company, got the logo, got everything that I needed to get together. And so what I've started to do now, actually more is cash based, and I'm working my way towards trying to get insurances and Medicaid.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So where are you seeing your referrals come from?
Actually, it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
A lot of it is word of mouth right now, or fellow OTs. So the ones which I find very interesting are the adult patients, and that's come from other OTs who are
Hmm.
not comfortable taking um, an adult with sensory processing issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you say you have a physical location, or are you doing this in your clients' homes?
In the clients' homes for now.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
more home based right now.
Yeah. It's a good way. That's a good way to start because it's a low overhead at that point.
Right. I'm feeling my way through. Yeah.
Yes. Do you find that the kids and the adults that you're treating, that you have to refer them on for other services, whether it be speech or counseling or physical therapy?
Yes, I have.
Hmm.
Because so I really, in my practice and all my years of practice, I really believe in the multidisciplinary approach, because I think that's how you can service your clients the best. Um, so definitely, yes, I do know of other therapists who are doing private businesses as well. So I will refer to them,
Okay.
like speech therapy or physical therapy. Yes.
Yeah. Amongst the clients that you've been servicing, is there sort of a theme that either the parents or the adults themselves that they want worked on, that come to you and say, Kavitha, this is what's going on with my child or myself for that matter, and I want this to get better, and I think you can help me with this. Is there a theme, or is there some similarities?
Well, generally with predominantly sensory kids that I'm seeing, usually it's a whole list, right? Because when we go in, there's multiple areas that they're looking at. And so I usually help the parents by saying, you know what, let's just look at the first most important areas for you. Let's narrow down to 3 or 5
Hmm.
areas, usually 3 areas, so that they can just focus on that. Because usually by the time I get them, they're kind of overwhelmed, and they're like, there's just so much. I don't understand what's happening. And sometimes what also happens is the relationship with family members. You know, I have examples where mothers will go like, the dad's thing is really behavioral,
Hmm.
or my family member thinks it's really behavioral. And that's when I whip out the book. And I'm not really, let's look at this again. I know it's hard to see it, but really sensory processing is an underlying, could possibly be the underlying reason that's manifesting in behavior that
Hmm.
you're seeing. And then I get them to do the profile, and I say, so I kind of talk them through. And usually while I'm doing my initial eval is when they'll go like, oh my God, now I totally understand why he does that.
Hmm.
Or why he, I'll tell them, like, sometimes they'll make an excuse to get out because it's so aversive to them. It's so uncomfortable, and nobody's really listening to them. So what do? They have to act out in a certain way. But now we're looking at the profile, and usually the profile is really good because it's tangible for them,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they filled it out. And then I kind of walk through like things that are happening at home and give them examples of what's happening at home, and they go, "Oh my God, this totally makes sense. Why they've been doing that? I used to think, this he was just trying to annoy me." I'm like, no, he wasn't. But it's more survival for them as well. So talk about the sympathetic system, and usually it's a course of 3 to 4 visits where they will kind of remember what you're saying, read through, then they'll come back and ask more questions. And I think the more knowledge they have as parents or caregivers, it's easier for them to treat as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And
No, go ahead.
And I always tell them that, the start of the day is really important. By the time your child opens their eyes, we need to set the sensory diet in because it's warming up the nervous system for
Mm-hmm.
them. And I said, if you don't do anything else, that morning 1 or 2 hours is very critical because that sets the stage. So also in the book, I kind of like break down the sensory diets for like just the morning schedule, just the afternoon schedule, just the night schedule, and then there's one for like a full day. But I tell them, if you can't do all of it, just pick one at least to start with, and it's kind of a building block, and we can build up from that.
Yeah. It's sort of like creating new habits. You have to
Right.
start with baby steps and then add on as we go along. It's just, it's mindset at that point.
Right, and because they've got a certain pattern at home, and we see, and sometimes it's interesting because you tell them like, well, you've kind of designed your home for the child because you know what your child needs or wants, so that you don't have the outburst, but that's not what's going to happen outside. And that's a scary thought for them, especially when the child needs to go to school. That's very, very scary for them, that transition, especially for parents. And they're like, I don't think people understand. And so we work through that, and I'm usually very happy to speak with the teachers, and I love working with the school therapists as well.
Mm-hmm.
See what's happening at home, to just tell them what I'm working on as well.
I'm curious about when you were going through that process of considering opening your own practice. What were some things that you look back on now that you didn't know, but you didn't even know to ask the question? You didn't know that you didn't know. Does that make sense?
Oh my God, so many. Just so many things, from just starting up a practice per se. What was the strategies that I needed, where to go. It just seemed so overwhelming, and then just setting up the website, it just seemed so huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so like even the website, I started doing it on my own, and then after a while I went up to Upworks and I got somebody to help me who's IT, and he's now he works with me. And I told him, oh my God, if I only knew all of, because that's what he does for a living. And he said, oh, this is what I do for a living. So he worked through with me on some of the things, and I said, oh my God, this is 6 months of my life I could have got back.
So you learned to hire somebody else to do stuff that you really didn't know how to do.
I did, yep. And I thought, oh, I could Google this and then learn it, but nope, I didn't. And sometimes when I discuss it with him, it makes a lot more sense because he will work through it, and I go, oh, thank God, because I thought it was just me. And he goes, no, this is really complex.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that you're smart enough and you probably could figure it out, but that's not a good use of your time.
Exactly. It was not a good use of my time. And so now I'm beginning to learn, like, no, of course there were stumbling blocks for me to learn because I really didn't know. And so what I did do was I also got a coach. Well, she is a coach for starting up businesses. And so I did a 1 day with her to walk through exactly what I needed. So that was actually great, because then she listed down everything that I needed. And I've been following that list, which made life a lot easier as well. And I'm going to go back to seeing her to do a consultation just for insurances and
Mm-hmm.
Medicaid, what I need to do, so that I think that would be a better way of spending my time, knowing exactly what I needed to do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good shortcut there. Smart.
Right. Well, again, I learned it the hard way.
At least you learned it, right?
Yes.
Um, so when you first started up, was your husband involved, or was he just basically there for encouragement?
A lot of support. Yes. So he
Mhm.
was there for a lot of support. He did ask me, what can I do? And I said, I really don't know right now because it's all these things that I need to be doing. But he said, that's so therapy related. But, he was a good sounding board. I was able to talk to him through. It's really helpful to have someone
Yeah.
to talk to and say, does this sound right? Or am I going off the deep end with this? So it was great that he's been very supportive throughout the whole process, and that's been very helpful.
Oh yes, that makes a huge difference. If your significant other, or at least somebody close to you, is supportive of it. Because if they're coming down on you saying this is a bad idea and you're trying to do it, that's not helpful, is it?
No, no. He's been very supportive, and he was telling me he's been trying to ask me now to look for a spot where I should build a clinic.
Mm.
He's pushing me forward.
He sees it. He sees big. He has big goals and aspirations. Good for him.
Yeah, he does. I think he's seen me in the clinics back in, at UIC and stuff. And so he's like, oh yeah, don't you want to have, and I've actually I've drawn up things, drawn up like a treatment area that I want, or site that I want. I want to do camps as well. So hippotherapy is also in the pipe. Like, there's a lot of goals that I have that I slowly have to be working towards. But I have those goals.
Yeah. Oh no, that's great. That you said you're doing cash base right now. So when people call you and then ask if you take insurance and you tell them no, it's strictly cash based right now. Do you get any pushback from that?
Sometimes they do, and that's really hard to hear.
Yeah.
Because I want to help. So I do tell them I can work with the insurance companies if they need me to give whatever that's required. I can definitely do that, and that's also the reason, the push for me to kind of go see my coach or mentor to find out what I can do to get the insurances right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also know people who are willing, who have been willing, and I tell them, if you come first, if you can get a certain number of sessions together, I can give you a discount.
Yeah.
So that makes it easier for them to understand, because usually after the first eval, I kind of roughly know how many visits we probably need.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them these are the issues we're working on, and this is what I need to work with you on. They have a better understanding.
So it sounds like you can put a package together for them to, I guess, sort of pay up front and give them a discount on that, and then you just invoice them for that. And are you processing that like with PayPal or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I found that to be most effective. So it's really well. Mm-hmm.
Are you using some sort of invoicing software? I guess PayPal has invoicing software. Are you using that?
Yes, that's predominantly what I'm using right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But I have been looking at other softwares as well, like WebPT. I've looked at it. I was just thinking, as my business grows, that might be one of the electronic medical records that I want to be looking at, because I'm really interested in doing telehealth as well.
Okay.
So I've spoken to a couple of people, and I've been thinking.
Yeah, that's a difficult decision. I've had to do that a couple of times, and it's difficult every time. Are you using something to write progress notes on right now? Are you doing paper notes? What are you using there?
Paper notes, really. So I save them. Yeah, right now.
I sort of long for the days of paper notes.
Right.
In many ways, it's so much easier.
Right. I mean, I saved them up on my computer, but it's not saved in electronic medical records or anything like that right now. But I've been thinking about it, though.
Yep. Yeah. When as you look back on this last year, and then, I mean, it's not just, it didn't take you just 1 year to get a private practice going. You had, almost 20 years there of gearing up for that. Even though you didn't know many of those years that it was for private practice, you were learning certain skills.
Right.
As you look back on that, what do you see that was really beneficial that you can tell maybe some of the new therapists who are listening, where you can say, you know what, that really benefited me now that I've started my private practice, and that they might not know that that's going to benefit them?
I think attending workshops and learning those skills. One thing I discovered is that there are certain treatments that you can do in private practice that sometimes is difficult to do in the hospital setting itself. For example, craniosacral therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the insurances involved, sometimes they'll tell you, no, we can't do it here. But if you were in private practice, there's so many more approaches that you can apply, and you can talk to the parents about. And so I think learning those skills and having the flexibility of using different kinds of treatments and different toolkits that you could have, I find it so much easier in private practice instead of feeling stifled. But remember, if you are not in private practice right now, you're still learning.
Mm-hmm.
You are still learning, and it's equipping you to opening up your own practice. The one good thing I feel for new clinicians out there would be to work with other clinicians to start with, because you learn so much from others as well, and then moving into a practice of your own, and I think you feel more equipped.
Definitely. Um, for I recommend that also to new therapists, because sometimes you get a little anxious about wanting to start your own practice, and just like you mentioned there, having your own practice, especially a cash-based practice, the freedom in the type of therapy that you can provide is so appealing compared to what we're often constrained to provide by insurance, or even therapists who work in schools. They're constrained by, it has to be an education type
Right.
therapy. To have that freedom of being able to provide whatever type of therapy you want to provide is very enticing. But at the same time, you don't want to pull that trigger too quick and get out there and realize, you know what, I probably should have been a therapist a little bit longer and
Right.
learned a few more things in order to make sure that you're successful in the future. Now, I don't know that it's necessary to take 20 years. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not dinging you for that, because I took quite a few years myself before I started my private practice. But do you think there's a sort of at least a minimum amount of years that you would recommend?
Yeah, about maybe 6 to 7 years, I think that would be good. And really, if you are in a practice area where everyone is, really equipped with their knowledge, with the latest research, and you're learning from the others, I think you should be good to go.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
think that's right. Yeah, I think I've recommended in the past, 5 to 7 years, somewhere in there,
Yeah.
and even I think it's helpful to work at more than one place within
Yeah.
that time span, just to get a feel for how different facilities and different organizations operate. And it would be so helpful knowing at that point that you wanted to open a private practice where you could maybe pay better attention to how the administration part of that is run, because we just don't get that in school.
No, you're absolutely right, because each place you go to work in, the management is so different. And when you work for an area like that, you're actually learning people's management styles.
Mhm.
And I think you tapped on something really important, because I know from the different places I've worked in what kind of management I would want for my
Yeah.
clinic and what
Hmm.
I don't. You learn that very quickly. And how therapists respond, because you want to grow your business. What would be the best way to grow it, with your therapist being happy with you and growing with you in your
Yes.
practice.
Yes. Well, Kavitha, we're going to have to wrap this up here in just a minute, but I want to know, what do you see the future being for your private practice, as far as what you would like to accomplish, like in the next 5 years? Where would you like to be as far as what your practice provides and what it's doing?
I definitely would like to have my own site, um, with um, and where we are is in a rural area, and I'd like to have where we can have maybe horses as well, and so do tons of sensory work, but also incorporate research, and have workshops in my setting as well for parents to attend, or even other OTs or other therapists to come attend.
Mhm. That sounds lovely. I like that. That sounds very nice. Well, Kavitha, we're gonna end this, but is there anything that you want to let the listening audience know before we end?
Being passionate in what you do, and don't wait 20 years. You can do it a lot sooner, because I'm really enjoying it right now.
Oh, that's great. Great advice. Well, thanks for joining us today, Kavitha.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed listening to Dr. Krishnan's story as much as I did. And I do want to reiterate how she sought out a mentor, a coach, when she first started thinking about starting her private practice, and how much that coach, that mentor, helped her. So I want to offer that service through the Academy of Private Practice. Go over to startatherapypractice.com/academy to check that out. And if you have questions about what the Academy is, certainly email me, scott@startatherapypractice.com, or you can direct message me through Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, any of those places. So go over to startatherapypractice.com/84 to check out all the information about Dr. Krishnan and her book, The SI Solution. I highly suggest getting that book if you have any kids or have any families that you serve who have that difficulty, who have that situation, and also for yourself to learn these very practical suggestions and tips that she has in this book. It's over at startatherapypractice.com/84. All right, thanks again so much for listening. I hope you have a great week. If you need anything, you know where to find me. And until next time, Godspeed to you and to your practice.